Hi, this is Phillip at Château Avensac, and this is Where is Mark? The second video, so it's an update. And a lot has happened. He was at the Clinique de Verdesh. I was renting a place down there, so I was with him every day. It was all going fairly well. August proved to be a challenging time to be in a clinic in France because a lot of people go on vacation, so things kind of get shifted around. And there's a revolving staff of people that were having to get him ready in the morning to go to physical therapy, which was a bit of a challenge and causing him to be somewhat late for some of his physical therapy, which was frustrating because really the only thing he really needed at the clinic was the physical therapy. Everything else was sort of supplemental to that. But it was working out. It was all working out. We talked to them, to the nursing and the care staff, and things, were working out pretty well. And we had settled into a nice little routine. And then in mid-August, the unthinkable happened. I got a sore throat on a Thursday. I tested in the morning. I woke up with it. I thought, ooh, that's kind of weird. I tested for COVID. It was negative. I thought, okay, great. I have symptoms, but it's not COVID because I'm testing negative. And I went to see Mark, and I thought, I have a little bit of extra caution. I'm going to wear a mask because even if I don't have COVID, if it's just a cold or something, he doesn't want that either. So I'll wear my mask. I spent, the whole day with him. I went back to the rental, and the next morning I woke up and I still had this sore throat. It was a little worse. And so I tested again. And I tested positive for COVID. It was, I didn't know what to do. I called him and told him I'm positive. And the thing is, I've been providing most of his personal care, the more intimate personal care. In the mornings, it would be the clinic staff would take care of him. But after that, I get there at noon, meet him for lunch after his first physical therapy session. And then for the rest of the day, I did all of the care for him. And for him, this idea of just having a parade of different people constantly having to take care of him in that kind of intimate way was a bit much. And it was exasperated because in August, so many people are on vacation. So the care staff there were all these new faces showing up for him constantly because the various people were on vacation. So it really was a parade of different people. The issue with personal care was just one of some, other issues with him staying there without me being there. Another notable one was just communication. With his physical therapist and the occupational therapist, this wasn't a problem. His therapist spoke a fair amount of English, and they spoke actually communicated very well for English. Between his French and her English, it worked out very well. And the occupational therapist was pretty much fluent. With everybody else, it was always a little bit of a challenge. I mean, he could ask for the everyday things, but, me being there also helped for translating as things came up with the nurses and with the care staff, who would speak some English to varying degrees. And I will say everyone really made a great effort to do the best they could. And yes, my French is pretty much crap, but it's a lot less crap than his French. So I think it brought him a little bit of comfort with communications with me being able to, to translate as best as I could. I'm not saying I got it right every time. I don't know. Sometimes he'd say, what did they say? And I'd be like, yeah, they said something medical. I don't know. Anyway, so it was just sort of a combination of things that the idea of him spending a week there without me just felt very, very, very challenging for him. And I think combined with this, we forget, he's in a bed unless someone helps him get into a wheelchair. And when he's in the wheelchair, he can get around a little bit himself. I mean, he can wheel himself around. But he's very dependent on other people. And it's hard to really understand that kind of feeling of entrapment. And I think me not being there just kind of pushed him over the edge on that kind of feeling. So he told the doctor, his doctor was on vacation, but the doctor covering for her, that he wanted to go home for a week while I, got over COVID, and then he'd be back. And also that, he had been exposed onto Thursday, the day before, when I thought I was negative, and so there was a risk for him. And the doctor said, you're not my patient. I don't know your case. I don't know if that's okay. But he said, we talked about it, and he said, you're scheduled to go home on the weekend anyway. If you want, you can go home on the weekend, but you have to be back Sunday. And he said, I'll let you go home today, which was a Friday, but you have to be back. So I said, let's just do that. So we went home for the weekend. We isolated as much as possible. I mean, I still had to take care of him, but we'd wear masks. Both of us would wear masks when I was in the room with him, and I slept in another room and, kept my contact with him as limited as possible. And on the Sunday night, I drove him back to the clinic and literally had to drop him off. He had to wheel himself back in, and he went back into the clinic. And so his plan was on Monday was to talk to his doctor who was coming back from vacation. He sent her a long email to explain everything and that he wanted to come home. And I didn't hear back from her. So in the afternoon, he tracked her down and she just said, I'm sorry, I'm really busy today. We can probably talk tomorrow. And then that was that. So he was very unhappy. So he called me up and he said, I don't know what to do. He said, I just can't stay here on my own like this. And so I said, all right, I'll come down and get you. And I got down there. He told the nurse that he was leaving. This caused a bit of a ruckus. Complicated that he had some appointments at the hospital for some tests the following day that was all arranged. And eventually the nurse brought in the night doctor because his doctor had gone home. And she was actually very kind and said, look, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. He said he would go to his appointments and afterwards he would come back to the clinic so he could talk to the doctor. So Mark went down to the hospital for his test the following day. Friends of ours, actually we met them a while ago, but they weren't living here full time, so we only seen them a few times. But they really stepped up because I said, I can't take you. I can't. One, it's not good for us to be in a car together, even if we drive with the windows open and we're both wearing masks. But two, I can't go to a hospital, and I'm really supposed to stay isolated. So our friends Janine and Edward are saints. They took him to the clinic, to the hospital the following day. This is an all-day thing. Our friend Ev met him down there, so because she could translate if necessary, and he had just some consultations in preparation for some tests, so that was all good. And then they drove down to the clinic de Videsh to meet with his doctor and spoke to her. She was not happy about the fact that he had left, and she basically said, look, if you leave the clinic, if you don't come back and stay here, you won't have a place here. And so he thought about it and he called me and he said, I'm not sure what to do. But I knew he didn't want to stay there without me. I said, look, we'll make this work no matter what. And so he told the doctor that he was going to leave. And she had to come back to give him prescriptions. And when she did, she actually kind of changed her tune a little bit. And she was really kind of sweet and said, look, I know this is really hard. And I just want you to know, as you're progressing, if you feel like coming back here for a couple of weeks or maybe even for just a day to work with the physical therapist here, let us know. We'll see what we can do. Just let us know. So she left that door open, which in the end was really, really nice. And I get this was difficult for her because she'd been away. She had a bunch of patients to see the day before. They're trying their best. We had been planning to have him come home at the end of September, which means setting up physical therapy for him here at the house and in order to move forward. And so we just accelerated those plans. So he's back at the house, so much more comfortable, and it's just more relaxed, it's just easier for him. And in many ways, it's also easier for me. I do have more care work to do, but not much, because I was doing almost all of it anyway. And so everything works around our schedules a little better. We have someone that comes, kind of like a drill sergeant. She comes 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, to work with him. It's actually, I think, more than he was getting at the clinic. He knows what he needs to do, at least at this stage, from the work that he was doing at the clinic. The physical therapist there also, his therapist that he was working with, said, you know, if you have any questions, just contact me, let me know what's going on, and ask me, you know, and give me updates. I want to know what's going on. I thought that was really, really sweet. And so he's been, this past week, this first week, he's been working with the drill sergeant, Corinne, and that's been working out really well. She spends usually the first hour just really flexing his legs, moving him around, massaging the legs, and that's really helped him a lot. And then the rest of it time is spent doing sort of more exercises to help strengthen the kind of things he can do. And in that time, right after he got home, one thing that started happening is he started to be able to move his toes on his left foot. Now, a little caveat to that, he actually started to be able to move them a while ago, a few weeks ago, but only if he was in the shower with the water raining down on his foot. Somehow the stimulation of that water hitting his foot allowed him to make the connection to his toe, and he could totally move him. He could move the toe. It was so bizarre. But the moment he took the water off, it stopped. It was the strangest thing. Even his physical therapist came down to his room to see this happen because she didn't believe this. She said, this doesn't make any sense. We've never seen it. And then she asked all the other physical therapists and the doctors about it. And they're all like, no, I've never heard of anything. And they tried things like heat to see if it was the warm water that stimulated it. But they tried like a heat lamp that didn't do anything. It was just a sensation of the water falling. But once he got home, he started to be able to move the toe on his own without being in the shower. It's not consistent. Sometimes he can do it and sometimes he can't. And also yesterday he moved not just the toe, but actually the whole foot, like kind of the whole foot up and down. Just for a while he was able to do that. So it's coming online, what can I say? He also has a lot of electrical feeling in the left leg. It's like an electrical impulse that kind of goes down the leg. It's not painful, but he says it's not exactly comfortable. And sometimes it just constantly happens, so it's just kind of annoying. But it's also what happened in the right leg before it really started to move, so it's sort of the precursor to that. We have a physical therapist near here in a town called St. Clair who will work with Mark. He'll start on the 15th because he's on vacation for 2 weeks. So besides our drill sergeant, Corinne, Mark will have an actual trained physical therapist as well. He also had a meeting with the neurosurgeon last week to just check where it was the first sort of update since the surgery, since he left the hospital. He had an MRI and then a consultation, and the neurosurgeon was very happy with his progress. He could see that the inflammation has gone down. He said there's still evidence of a small piece of the lesion left in his spinal column, but he said it's probably fine and they can probably leave it. It's the tumor that they removed is benign. He'll go back again in 3 or 4 months to have another MRI and just check in the status. And the neurosurgeon was very happy with his progress to date. And in fact, yesterday, Mark sent him a video of him moving his left foot. He was actually at that moment able to move his left foot. And the neurosurgeon wrote back to him, like, you've made my Saturday. That's really, really sweet. So that's the status. That's where we are. Overall, he's much happier and much more comfortable at home. He can kind of monitor what's going on here. We have electrical and plumbing work that has started up again after the holidays in August. And, so it's just a lot easier for him to be a part of that now. And in some ways, I think he's getting more attention because at the clinic, a lot of time he'd have some one-on-one time with the physical therapist, but she's also working with, I think, 5 other patients at the same time. So she kind of rotates from patient to patient. There's some equipment that we need to help with his therapy. And so we've ordered some of that. Not a lot, not too much, which is great. And so hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll really have things set up properly for him to keep moving forward and making progress. And that's where Mark is. And that's our story. Oh, I recovered from COVID. In truth, my symptoms weren't even that bad. It was like having a cold for me. I was still able to take care of Mark. He never got COVID. He kept testing negative. And I did my isolation for 7 days. I kept testing positive for another day or two after that, and then no. And then after that I was negative. So it's all done. And that's our story. All right. I also want to say thank you everyone who've written some really beautiful comments about what's going on with Mark and his situation, and also about the house. It's really appreciated. There are some people that have also provided some really great advice, or places for resources that have been really great, and some of their own stories of having some experiences that are similar to his. So it's really nice to hear about other people that have kind of gone through something like this and have come out on the other end, in a good place. So that's been really great. So thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, this is Phillip at Château Avensac, and this video is Where is Mark? Second video. Been a few, oh God, there's this mosquito and it just won't leave me alone. It's so annoying. Ugh. Just buzzes around my head. Why are they so freaking annoying?